Hi, welcome to another episode of Dawncast. My name is Kathy Ngo.
And I'm Di Lee.
Today we have a special guest, Vanessa Cullen, who is the Managing Director of Forward Thinking Design, a 17-year-old certified B Corp company and one of the most awarded brand strategy and built environmental design studios. Welcome, Vanessa.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Pretty good, yeah. I would say at the start of COVID, I was, obviously like everyone else, kind of rattled and trying to find my feet and everything. But things have been really interesting. Really, I've seen a lot of shift in terms of people wanting to reach out to us and reach out to my business, and that's been really buoying. And we're seeing our clients kind of getting a bit more confident now, and everyone's just in a better headspace. So things are quite a lot better.
And so, sorry, we've got a few technical things happening here. Catherine's talking about B Corp. What does it all mean to be a B Corp certified or B Corp organisation?
Well, B Corps are businesses that do good. So we sort of say the B stands for doing business better and being a benefit corporation. So what that means is that we're actually as diverse as it comes, really, in terms of what types of businesses we are. Some of us are social traders, so we're like social enterprise type organizations. And then others are businesses that have really just met the parameters for international certification and recognition as a B Corporation. So when we say that we're business for good, that covers everything from environmental impact, social impact, the way in which you treat your staff, your suppliers, customers, etc. Whether you've got social purpose. So it's very broad. But if you can think of the certification, it's like almost going for a business award where they pull apart every part of your business. And it's an independent organization who vet us and they look at everything like financials, governance, you name it. So B corporations are businesses that are a bit different to your typical for-profit. We are for-profit organisations, but we really have mission and purpose at the heart of what we do. So that underpins everything.
I'm currently going through that process as well, and there's a lot of questions, and I'm glad that there's a lot of questions because we definitely want, I think everyone wants to do good these days, but good means different to a lot of people. It has to be really genuine. So congratulations on the B Corp status.
Is there a cost?
Thank
involved? You. Is there a cost?
There is, yeah. It's scaled according to the size of your organisation. But the benefit outweighs the cost because it's typically just a recognition for what you're already doing in your business anyway. But Kathy's right insofar as it takes a lot to meet the rigorous standards, which is what we want, right? You want to know that if you're buying from these businesses that they've been certified and recognised and scrutinised, so it's not just like greenwashing.
Mm-hmm. And so tell us a bit about your business. What industries do you service?
So we service hospitality, retail, service-based businesses, government, and our social work is with charities and not-for-profits and other social enterprises as well. So the work that we do is in business strategy, and it's applied to built environment. So we began as an interior architecture and interior fit-out design firm, but as we've evolved, people have recognised that not only are we great for design, we're also really good at business, and we understand how design thinking can be applied to business problems. And so what that's meant is that we've become kind of known as the company that you get on board if you're a startup or if you're looking to pivot in the market, and we help you to think through all the problems in business and all the opportunities and to co-design with your staff and your customers and everything about how you're going to get a better return on investment on your space. So any type of space, any type of built environment that you occupy.
You talk about design thinking, and I hear a lot about that around. What does it mean for people who think it's a sexy term but doesn't know what it means?
Yeah, it is bandied around a lot, and for a lot of people, it's really a process of problem solving. But I guess in the way that we apply it, the way that we kind of define it, is that it's really about engaging with the users and the consumers and the market. So it's like a sort of a deep market research that actually empowers people, gets people involved in the creation. So first of all, you look at like context, the environment which you operate. You really dive deep into the identity of you and your business and your market, and then you engage all the people together to then come up with like, what is our point of view? What is our strategy? What is our intent? So once you've got all that mission stuff done, that leads on to like putting the strategy in writing. And then from there, you create ideas. So that's like the mind mapping and creation. We guide our clients through that. And then from there, you prototype. So even in the terms of like space, prototyping can actually just be working things out as drawings and that sort of thing. And then you go through execution. And so that would be, in our case, like doing detailed drawings for development applications, CDCs, that sort of thing. And then obviously you execute your project. And the important thing at the end of that is that you go back and evaluate, like, did we meet the original aims of our research and what our users hoped, and did we achieve social impact and those sorts of things? So that's a long-winded explanation of design thinking, but I think it is best to define it according to how you're using it. For us, it's about using a process. So that's what we see as design thinking.
Could you provide an example where you of a business or a charity that you work with and provide your service, like just a little
Yeah,
bit?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example of three because they're all the same type of business. So one example of the charity type work that we do is that we've designed quite a few community food co-ops. So there's Alfalfa House, which is in Sydney, Flame Tree, which is down in Thurl, and Manly Co-op. We did some consultation for them as well. So these are organisations that are places you can come to buy local organic food, but they're run largely by volunteers under a co-op structure. So the reason each of these has come to us is because they say, well, we've got X amount of dollars that's been donated or that we've raised from our business, and we want to renovate and redesign our store. But we know that if we did this ourselves, we have very limited understanding of really the technicalities of this, even down to like work health and safety. We don't understand how to position products to boost sales in an ethical way. So they don't really understand those things. So we've worked with each of them to get all their volunteers and get the community involved in coming up with the ideas and structuring it, meeting their needs and meeting ergonomic requirements, like to create universal design, for example, and then getting everyone involved in actually building the fit out. So even getting like artists involved to do murals and things like that. And the benefit of having us involved is that we take that, say, $50,000 for the renovation, and we amplify the impact compared to if they'd just done it in-house themselves.
Right. How did you get to do what you're doing now? What took you there? What road did you take to get there?
Well, I studied design at university, and during that time, I just picked up some freelance jobs on the side, like as you do, you want to get some experience. And I started out more in graphic design, but then I just kept getting more and more paid work. And I went out from university and worked for a few design firms, but I was actually really unhappy with the ethics in the industry. So as I built up more and more work myself, I got to a point where I said, look, I can't sleep at night with the ethics that I'm experiencing in the industry. I've got enough work to be able to do this full time myself. And so from there, I started to hire people and build the company. So it was really an ethical decision. So it's funny when you talk about us as a B Corporation or a social traders enterprise, we've been that since before those things even existed. So it feels like the world has actually caught up with us now rather than that we were created in this way. Like it was always my vision from the beginning to be about purpose and to work in a better way or a different way.
So you're kind of like a pioneer, like you've sort of led the way already in terms of all this ethical social enterprise setup.
Yeah, it was funny because I almost didn't see it happening. And then I think it was like, I was looking at reframing the business about 3 years ago, and I suddenly went, oh, there's other people like us now. We could be part of a community. Yeah.
So you mentioned about ethics, and for those who are not in the industry, like the creative industry, what are some of the things or ethical dilemmas that you see that we may not necessarily come across?
That's a great question. There's a lot. So it can be things like just respecting the intellectual property of other creatives. So that was one thing that I really sort of found in the industry wasn't really being respected enough. Unfortunately, in interior architecture and fit out design, it's unregulated too. So you have a lot of people who enter practice who don't necessarily have qualifications, and unfortunately, that has led to a race to the bottom in terms of fees. So that has the impact of meaning that people get exploited at work. So people are not necessarily being paid for the number of hours that they put in. The rates are very low, and there's a lack of respect for the professionalism required to do the job very well. And then obviously too, there's also this sense of responsibility and ethics around the fact that you are creating things. So we create experiences and we kind of manipulate how people think and how they experience space, but also the products that they buy. And so from my point of view, I see that as such a powerful thing that I can only use it for good. So there are certain clients that we actually will say no to, that there's some work that we won't do, because I realize how powerful my ability to persuade is, and the ability of my team to persuade.
Mm. It's interesting because we've had another person that we interviewed. She's the founder of an organization called World Citizens Artists. And her work, or her perspective, is that it has to be ethical. And she applied, she got some grant from this organization, or this one individual in the States, and that individual is associated with a political party that she didn't really believe in. So apparently it's $1 million, and she said she turned it down.
A hidden agenda.
And I said, "Oh my God, you turned that down?" She goes, "Yes, because it just did not align with my social and ethical values." So she was struggling because it's a artist organization, so it must be difficult when you make that have that kind of belief that is my ethical value, and therefore you're prepared. Would you be prepared to say, okay, I'm not going to touch that, even though I'm needing the funds? Would you get to that, or have you been in that situation?
All the time. Yeah. All the time. Yeah, no. Oh my gosh, I've made that decision so many times. And it's been everything from certain like fast food operators through to we even have been contacted to do like offices for companies really heavily in gambling, and then cigarette companies and things like that. And so I've knocked back some really huge work, and it's like, well, that seems quite foolish from a business point of view, but I set the business up so I could sleep at night, and my team believe in this, and our clients believe in it. And the other thing is too that I only need to go to one of my charity clients and sit down with them and the people that they serve to be brought back to earth. So, for example, Lentil is Anything, who a lot of people would know, they're one of our clients. Yeah.
Lentil.
Love them.
Lentil.
Yeah,
Lentil is Anything.
Oh, yeah, it's
okay.
Play on words. But they're in Newtown, the Bohemian side. I was actually around that area yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So tell us.
So they're a pay-as-you-can-afford restaurant. So, back before COVID, you could go in there and sit down. You sit at a communal table, and on your left, you might have someone who's homeless who's eating for free. And on your right, you might have the CEO of a company or something like that. But if you sit there and you talk to people of all walks of life, you see that some people get by on nothing. And if you can see that, then the consideration that I might turn down some work because, it doesn't comply with my ethics, I can do that because I can say, well, I can live a more minimalist and simple life. I don't need the money, that sort of dirty money, or that money that doesn't sit well with me, because I can sit next to this homeless person and, they're living. I'm not going to die because I've turned down that one project. And, my team and I can just work harder to bring in more of the right sort of work for us. So it certainly keeps us energized. We have to probably work harder than most because we're not accepting everything that comes in through the door. But,
yeah, that's right. It's much harder. How are you finding with COVID-19? How has that impacted in terms of your operations?
Initially, it was massive. So we lost everything in our pipeline, everything, because we had a project that we were doing, which was a building master plan for a golf course that was looking to pivot and reconnect with their community and offer like more hospitality and get away from the emphasis on like drinking and gambling and those sorts of things. And so obviously they had to close down. We had to put that project on hold. Thankfully, it's come back online now because they're on JobKeeper. But initially that was, okay, just shut that down. On top of that, we had, like, for example, we were doing a gym design and, we're just starting that off. Yeah, and that had to be put on hold. And we had a few other things around like hospitality coming along, and everything just went on hold. But thankfully, since then, as I say, JobKeeper's brought a few things back online. We've also had some new projects come up, a few office projects and that sort of thing. And I guess we've also had more customers come to us, or clients come to us, around like work health and safety, moving back into their spaces, reconsidering how does space work in this new environment, and even just for consultancy work as well. So it's picking up, thankfully, but it was devastating to begin with.
I remember your email that came out when COVID happened, and it was just so raw, and there was almost beauty in that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like what was in the email? Share, please share.
Just, I'll show you later, but it was just, Vanessa, like, it's very rare that people share that vulnerability, because it's like, we know it's shit, but you just said it in a way that kind of, I don't know, it just kind of, I just felt moved. Yeah.
What did you touch upon that moved Catherine so much, Vanessa?
I think it was just how you were feeling, and and I think I'll let you explain.
That's okay. I'm glad it touched you. I hope, like, obviously in a good way. It could have been quite triggering, I guess, for some people, but I'm very much straight down the line. What you see is what you get. And so I think what I was reflecting on was, I'm an ultra runner, and so I run ridiculously long distances, like 50K sort of races. And one of the things about that, and also my background as a person who's been through a lot of trauma, is that you kind of feel like with coronavirus now, a lot of people are seeing the world in a way in which you've experienced it probably too often in your life already. So you can bring certain insights to the conversation. It's like, this is kind of something that I've dealt with before, like not this exact circumstance, but the idea of something of being a long struggle where you just need to focus on your survival. So even things like, have I had enough to eat? Have I had enough sleep? Am I taking care of myself? So I think what I wrote was about that feeling of being on a journey where you just take it one step at a time and you bring it back to the simplest things and the basics. And, you keep thinking that the finish line is just around the corner, just around the corner, just around the corner. And it just keeps going on and on and on. And how can you just push on through that? And how can you find the resilience and the strength in yourself that you didn't even know you had? So I think that's what I was putting out there. And I know I was quite triggered at the time by a lot of very panicked and divisive stuff that was on social media. And that prompted me to write, because I believe in speaking out. I don't believe in letting that stuff just go through. And I was really afraid that if people clung on to that division and fear, and that it would become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh,
so like,
God, you took the words out of my mouth, Vanessa. It's exactly. I think that's the reason.
That's what we're doing, right?
Yeah, that's the reason why I thought, look, we have to create a media platform or a channel that we can have insights, stories like this to share, that we have been through a lot more. And as the human race, we have evolved so much. We had one podcast with Cecilia, who has been through, in terms of in Korea, the struggle of living without food and coming here and having to learn the English language in order to rebuild her life. So, and for myself, being a refugee, the same thing. So during this COVID time, just like what you've just explained, you think, okay, I have been through a lot. I have survived days, almost suffering from malnutrition on a
Yeah.
boat that we had no food, or we had food, limited food, but you didn't want to eat it because you couldn't eat. And you'd think you'd die because you encountered huge storms and all that. And so I think when you look at COVID-19 and people panic, people go into this kind of really selfish behavior of stocking up and going and getting rolls and rolls of toilets and buying all this food. You think, really? I mean, there are times when after the war in Vietnam, there was no food and we were able to survive.
Yeah, it certainly puts you into that perspective that in our life's journey, COVID is just a small smidget of it. Very impactful smidget. But yeah, and I think that's what, like, why we started Dawn, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to talk with people. We want to share stories of people who've got that lived experience. It's that whole lived experience, because I think as a society we're just so, we like to see the shiny lights of social media and
we also perpetuate, we contribute, like as you said, Vanessa, the negativity, the feeding of the fear. And what we want to do is not feed into the fear, but we want to feed into the resilience and the hope that you can come out of this and that you can, But I suppose you run that long, is it a marathon?
oh my God, I'm just thinking about my knees at the moment.
You think, am I going to get to that finish line? Am I going to get to the finish line? And you have to continually build your resilience, don't you, in order to push you to the finish line.
Yeah. I think I'm able to run the distances that I have been able to run because life has in many ways felt like an ultra marathon. Like I've been through a lot of difficult things and fought through a lot of barriers, and I take that with me because running almost becomes simpler than life because it really is about one foot in front of the other, and eating and drinking and that, and not getting lost and things like that. So it's a good analogy for life. But I think
can you share, give us a little glimpse of something that that you were in the fires, like how you rose from that fire? Is there a particular fire that you can share with us?
Like a tipping point or something.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Is there, when you talk about hunger, like
Yeah.
when was that moment when you felt that, there was no food and you survived that?
Yeah, there's a lot of them in my life, but okay, probably the most, well, it's not the most recent example, but certainly, actually, I'll just give you a bit of background because it's probably the easy way to do it. But when I was little, like 2 years old, I was diagnosed with a kidney disease, nephrotic syndrome, and that really plagued me for like the first 10 years of my life, where I was in and out of hospital all the time, very chronically ill. And you think as a child, like that's very traumatic and difficult, but you think, okay, that's behind me. I've packed that away, and I've changed my life, and I'm in control of my body now. So then, in my early 30s, I, out of nowhere, was diagnosed with a different chronic kidney disease that actually it doesn't have a cure. So it's a degenerative condition,
Right.
and that was catastrophic for me because I had fought so hard to feel like I was in control of my health and my body and my identity and my future. And having come out of that, grown up as an adult, I'm no longer a child, and I can sort of give that child a hug and put it aside. But then to be hit by that again as an adult and have that huge disruption when you're trying to run a business and start, you've got a career and everything like that. And for me, it was at first you go through that kind of mourning process, which is very relevant to coronavirus, like the whole experience that people have been through with this wave of, like, first of all, it's shock and denial and horror and all these sorts of things. And then you get to places of acceptance and making peace. But it's not linear, and you loop back on that experience all the time. So it's like you think that you're following the wave, but there'll be days or moments where you go back to that panic and anger and fear and all those sorts of things. So having been through a second diagnosis where they said to me, look, you're probably the only person in the world to have been so unlucky as to have both, I think that just going through that whole process of dealing with that really, again, set me up for this current experience that I'm like, oh, I've been here before. And just seeing people go through that whole grieving process and being able to talk to people and say, are you feeling like this? Because I'm guessing from my experience you might be, and being able to reach out to people. So that would be just one example.
So being diagnosed the second time, what did that mean for you? How did you have to change your way of living?
I guess because it's a degenerative condition for which there is no cure. It's called polycystic kidney disease. It's not related to polycystic ovarian syndrome or anything like that. It's a fully systemic disease, so it can actually affect any parts of your body. It's not just kidneys. I'm lucky insofar as I have really good kidney function, so I'm in very early stages. But I happen to have a variant that is unidentified, so it doesn't fit the formula for any previous polycystic kidney disease. They're currently doing gene mapping to try and work out what it is, but it's completely unique. And I didn't get it from my parents. So normally it's a hereditary disease, and in my case, it's not. So what that means for me is that we can't look at my parents or previous generations to work out how it might go for me. So every day is just whatever it might be. But in terms of changing my life, I haven't had to do much. I mean, I have to manage a bit of chronic pain and that sort of thing. But it's more with the running and the ultra endurance. I just have to be very careful about how I handle myself, and being very aware of my own body in that so that I have a good balance between like managing the disease but also managing like my hydration and things like that. So it's more just day-to-day awareness really. Yeah.
So does it impact you, like, in terms of your what you need, what you can do or can't do for yourself and your body in terms of in the future? Is there a limit to what you can and can't do?
Yeah, I mean, over time, my kidney function will decline. So, but we don't know how quickly that will be. About half the people with this disease by the age of 50 do actually suffer from kidney failure, and there's also a high risk of cardiovascular diseases as well. So for me, I manage my well-being as much as possible with getting enough rest and eating well. I eat a plant-based diet, and just trying to take those sorts of precautions, doing lots of physical exercise. I can't control the disease, but what I can do is position myself in the best possible condition for a transplant should I ever need one down the line, and obviously just be as healthy as I possibly can. It affects me a bit in terms of fatigue and obviously the pain, particularly at night. So some days I get like a little more tired than you would like to be if you're running a business.
Yeah, I
but
can imagine.
but I know my limitations and I work around that. And people say to me, how can you even talk about fatigue when you're an ultra runner? But
Yeah.
no, believe me, it's real. So, yeah.
Well, keep that fitness up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have no doubt that's probably the reason why you do the ultra running.
Well, I love being out in the bush. I love being in nature. And so that's my balance in life. And that's why I do the ultra running, because just the idea of just being outside, running along a coastline or out in the Blue Mountains or something like that, that's my happy place. So
Well, thanks for sharing. I really appreciate that.
thank you.
So Vanessa, tell us what's next for you, and also how can people reach you as well to learn more about your business and your running as well.
Oh, thank you.
Do you want people to run with you?
Yeah, everyone's very welcome to come run with me anytime.
I won't be able to keep up.
No. Well, I walk a lot as well, and I really love my walks, and particularly during Corona, because I haven't been traveling far afield to go running. I've been doing a lot of walking, and I take a lot of my clients out for meetings as walks. So rather than getting a coffee, we go for a walk, or if I've got a call to take, I take it for a walk. I would really suggest that to people. It's a really great way to get away from the desk as well.
Absolutely.
But in terms of what's next for me, so in the business, we're working on a lot of creation of ideas, particularly around like the future of hospitality in particular, because you take an industry that is about experience, and it's about sharing, and it's about, food and all the cultural links to that. And now you make it very clinical because of all the hygiene requirements, and you make it about takeaway and turning tables over really quickly because you can only seat 10 people. And you just think, well, how does that completely shift that whole dynamic? I mean, what is food and sharing about, and how does that affect hospitality? So we're working on a lot of looking at what the future of that might be and working with our clients on it. We're also working on some ideas around circular economy for fit out. So when you're fitting out a space, or you're defitting, so you're demolishing the interior fit out, well, where does all that waste go? So at the moment, we're actually looking for partners in research on this to look at it as a project about how can we reduce the amount of materials that are used and make better choices around selections, and then how can we take back all the materials, fittings, fixtures, furniture, and how can we then reuse those things? So how can they be turned into new products, or even put into social housing, for example, and other places in which they can go? And the biggest hurdle to that at the moment is really the take back and storage. Like, where do you put it before you can put it into a new place? So we're working on all of that at the moment. So I guess, keep in contact with me best through LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there, and I post a lot of things, a lot of our new ideas. You can check out Forward Thinking Design's website, it's just forwardthinkingdesign.com.au. I'm on social media too, on Instagram under the business, and also under More Than PKD. So that's words more than, and PKD stands for polycystic kidney disease. That's more of a personal thing where I put up photos of running and stuff like that. So there you go.
Thank you. I'll certainly be following that, and I'll probably start running.
Yeah, I'll
with
try.
Fried chicken in my hand.
You can take snacks, like dates and things like that.
Oh, sorry, that might have offended you because you have a plant-based diet. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. I wasn't plant-based my whole life, so it's okay.
Well, thank you for joining us, Vanessa. So everyone, that was Vanessa Cullen. My name is Kathy Ngo.
And I'm Dai Lee. And thank you for watching us, watching Dawn podcast. Make sure you click subscribe if you want to see more of this content.
Like the video, put a comment.
Or the bell.
Yep, click on the bell so you can get notified as well for awesome content.
So thank you. See you.
Thanks. Bye.